Imagine growing up in a palace filled with fear, betrayal, and violence. This was the childhood of Ivan the Terrible, the man who would one day become Russia's most feared ruler. Can you imagine feeling scared and alone in a place where you're supposed to be safe and loved? But how did this lonely boy grow up to become one of history's most feared leaders? Let's explore his journey. Ivan was born on August 25, 1530, into a life of luxury and power. He was the youngest son of Vasily III, the Grand Prince of Moscow, and his wife Yelena Glinskaya. But Ivan's childhood was far from happy. When Ivan was just 3 years old, his father died, and his mother took over as regent. However, she didn't live long either. Ivan was left an orphan at the tender age of 3, with no clear heir to the throne. This meant that he had to rely on the mercy of his relatives, the nobles, to protect and care for him. Imagine being a young boy, feeling lost and scared, with no one to turn to. This is exactly what Ivan went through. He was shuffled from one relative's home to another, never quite feeling like he belonged. The nobles who were supposed to care for him often neglected him or even treated him poorly. Ivan's life was marked by violence and fear from a very young age. He witnessed his father's death, and his mother's passing was likely traumatic for him. As he grew older, he was exposed to the harsh realities of court politics and the cruelty of those in power. It's no wonder that Ivan began to develop a tough exterior, a tough skin that would serve him well in his future as a ruler. But what does it take to turn a lonely, scared boy into one of history's most feared leaders? Let's explore Ivan's relationships and experiences that shaped him into the man he became. One of the most significant influences in Ivan's life was his mother's sister, Anna Koltovskaya. She took Ivan under her wing and taught him how to survive in the treacherous world of the palace. Anna was a strong and wise woman who saw potential in Ivan and helped him develop his skills as a leader. However, not everyone in Ivan's life had his best interests at heart. His guardians, the boyars, often fought for power and influence, using Ivan as a pawn in their games. They would often ignore his needs, neglect him, or even abandon him. This treatment would have a lasting impact on Ivan's view of the world and his relationships with others. As Ivan grew older, he began to realize that the world was a harsh and unforgiving place. He learned to rely only on himself and to trust no one. This lesson would serve him well in the years to come, as he navigated the complex web of alliances and rivalries that defined his reign. But Ivan's story is not just about his struggles and hardships. It's also about the people who helped shape him into the man he became. His relationships with his mother, his aunt, and his guardians all played a crucial role in his development as a leader. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore Ivan's relationships with the people who helped him rise to power. We'll examine the people who influenced him, the people he loved, and the people he feared. And we'll see how these relationships shaped him into the man who would one day become Russia's most feared ruler. But for now, let's take a moment to reflect on Ivan's childhood. A lonely boy, growing up in a palace filled with fear and violence. It's a reminder that even the most feared leaders in history were once innocent children, learning and growing in a world that can be both beautiful and cruel. As we continue to explore Ivan's story, keep in mind that his journey is not just about him. It's about the people who helped shape him, the choices he made, and the consequences of those choices. And it's about the lessons we can learn from his experiences, about the importance of empathy, compassion, and kindness. In the next part of our journey, we'll delve deeper into Ivan's relationships and experiences that helped him become the leader he was. But for now, let's take a moment to reflect on the complexities of Ivan's childhood and the people who helped shape him into the man he became. Ivan the Terrible was a name that struck fear into the hearts of many. But what made him so terrible? To understand that, we need to go back to the beginning of his life when he was just a young boy growing up in the palace. Imagine being a child, surrounded by guards, nobles, and servants. You're expected to behave perfectly, but you're also scared and alone. That's what Ivan's childhood was like. He was orphaned at a young age, which means he lost his parents when he was very young. This left him without someone to care for him or protect him. As a result, Ivan's life was filled with violence and fear. He saw nobles fighting each other, and even some of them fighting him. He felt threatened and scared, not knowing if he would be safe the next day. This kind of environment can shape a person's behavior and make them more aggressive or defensive. But Ivan's situation was even more complicated. His father, Vasily III, was a powerful leader who ruled Russia. When he died, Ivan's life became even more uncertain. He was just a child, and the nobles who were supposed to be protecting him were actually plotting against him. Imagine being in Ivan's shoes, feeling scared and alone in a place where you're supposed to be safe. You start to wonder if you can trust anyone, or if everyone is out to get you. This kind of fear and mistrust can be very damaging to a person's development. As Ivan grew older, he began to realize that he needed to take control of his own life. He started to make decisions and assert his power, but this came at a cost. He became more and more paranoid, believing that everyone was out to get him. This paranoia led him to become ruthless and violent, using fear and intimidation to get what he wanted. But at what cost? Ivan's reign was marked by terror and bloodshed. What drove him to such extremes? We'll explore the events that led to Ivan's descent into madness and terror in the next section. In the meantime, let's think about Ivan's childhood and how it might have shaped him into the person he became. Was he born to be a ruler, or was it the circumstances of his life that made him the way he was? We can see that even the most seemingly evil people have complex stories and motivations. As we continue to explore Ivan's life, we'll meet the people who knew him, the historians who studied him, and the experts who try to understand what made him tick. We'll also look at the events that led to his downfall and the impact he had on Russia and its people. Let's take a closer look at Ivan's early years and how they laid the foundation for his later behavior. One of the most significant events in Ivan's life was the death of his father. Vasily III was a powerful leader, but he was also a harsh one. He had Ivan's mother, Yelena Glinskaya, executed when Ivan was just a child. This event had a profound impact on Ivan. It made him realize that even those closest to him could be taken away at any moment. It also made him more determined to take control of his own life and protect himself from those who might harm him. As Ivan grew older, he began to make decisions that would have far-reaching consequences. He started to assert his power and take control of Russia, but this came at a cost. He became more and more isolated, surrounding himself with people who were loyal only to him. Ivan's behavior became increasingly erratic, and his paranoia reached new heights. He saw plots and conspiracies everywhere, and he was willing to do whatever it took to stop them. This led to a reign of terror, with Ivan using fear and intimidation to maintain his power. But Ivan's story doesn't end there. In the next section, we'll explore the events that led to his downfall and the impact he had on Russia and its people. We'll meet the people who knew him and the experts who try to understand what made him tick. For now, let's take a step back and think about Ivan's legacy. What does it mean to be a ruler who is remembered for his cruelty and violence? Is it possible to justify the actions of someone like Ivan, or are they simply beyond understanding? These are the questions we'll continue to explore as we delve deeper into the life and times of Ivan the Terrible. Join us next time as we examine the events that led to his downfall and the impact he had on Russia and its people. Ivan the Terrible, a name that makes people shudder. But what drove this man to become one of history's most feared rulers? Let's take a closer look at the events that led to his downfall. Growing up in the palace, Ivan was surrounded by fear and violence. His father, Vasily III, was a powerful Tsar, but Ivan's life was marked by loss and neglect. When Vasily died, Ivan was just a young boy, and he was left in the care of his mother, Yelena Glinskaya. But she died soon after, leaving Ivan alone and vulnerable. This was a difficult time for Ivan. He was only a child, and the palace was a place of fear and betrayal. The nobles who were supposed to protect him were instead plotting against him, and Ivan was left to fend for himself. As he grew older, Ivan became increasingly isolated and withdrawn. He had no one to turn to, and he felt like he was all alone in the world. But Ivan's isolation didn't make him weak. Instead, it made him strong. He learned to rely on himself, and he became determined to prove himself as a powerful leader. Ivan's desire for power and control grew, and he began to make deals with the nobles who had once plotted against him. He promised them protection and wealth in exchange for their loyalty, and slowly but surely, Ivan started to build a network of supporters. As Ivan's power grew, so did his paranoia. He became convinced that there were plots against him everywhere, and he started to see enemies around every corner. This led to a series of brutal purges, where Ivan would suddenly and without warning order the execution of nobles and commoners alike. It was a reign of terror, and Ivan's name became synonymous with fear and cruelty. But what drove Ivan's descent into madness and terror? Was it the loss of his parents, the neglect he suffered as a child, or something else entirely? Let's take a closer look at the events that shaped Ivan's life and led him to become one of history's most feared rulers. It's a question that has puzzled historians for centuries, and one that continues to fascinate people to this day. What makes someone like Ivan the Terrible, a man who was once a lonely boy growing up in a palace, turn into a ruthless leader who would stop at nothing to maintain his power? Is it nature or nurture, or is it something more complex? These are the questions we'll be exploring in this episode of No One Born Evil. Join us as we delve into the life of Ivan the Terrible and uncover the secrets that led to his downfall. But be warned, the story we're about to tell is not for the faint of heart. It's a tale of power, greed, and the consequences of unchecked ambition. As we continue to explore Ivan's life, we'll be looking at the key events that shaped his rise to power. We'll examine the role of the nobles who supported him, and the ways in which Ivan used fear and intimidation to maintain his grip on power. And we'll ask the question that has haunted historians for centuries. What makes someone like Ivan the Terrible, a man who was once a lonely boy growing up in a palace, turn into a ruthless leader who would stop at nothing to maintain his power? The story of Ivan the Terrible is a complex and fascinating one, full of twists and turns that will keep you on the edge of your seat. So join us as we embark on this journey of discovery and uncover the secrets that lie behind one of history's most feared rulers. But be warned, the story we're about to tell is not for the faint of heart. It's a tale of power, greed, and the consequences of unchecked ambition. Let's continue our exploration of Ivan's life and see what secrets we can uncover. Will we find the answers to the questions that have puzzled historians for centuries? Or will we be left with more questions than answers? Join us as we continue to explore the life of Ivan the Terrible and uncover the secrets that lie behind one of history's most feared rulers. But how does Ivan's legacy continue to impact Russia today? Let's explore the implications of his reign. Ivan the Terrible's time as Tsar of Russia was over 400 years ago, but his impact can still be seen in modern-day Russia. One way to understand this is to consider the way he ruled his country. Ivan was known for being harsh and often violent, but he also expanded Russia's borders, making it a more powerful nation. This mix of strength and ruthlessness can be seen in the way Russia interacts with the world today. Imagine you're a young boy growing up in Russia, and you're learning about your country's history in school. You might hear stories about Ivan the Terrible, how he was a strong leader who expanded Russia's borders, but also how he was cruel and violent. This mixed message can make it difficult for kids to understand their country's values and how they should behave. This is where Ivan's legacy comes in. His decision to make Russia a powerful nation has had a lasting impact on the country's culture and politics. Russia's leaders today still strive to be strong and expansionist, but they also have to balance this with being a responsible member of the global community. In fact, many historians believe that Ivan's legacy has contributed to Russia's ongoing tensions with its neighbors and other world powers. This can be seen in the way Russia has interacted with countries like Ukraine and the United States in recent years. But there's another side to Ivan's legacy that's just as important. Despite his cruel and violent behavior, Ivan was also a patron of the arts and culture. He loved architecture, music, and literature, and he built many beautiful buildings and commissioned works of art during his reign. This love of culture has continued to shape Russia's artistic and cultural scene to this day. In the final section of this documentary, we'll examine the lasting impact of Ivan the Terrible on Russia and the world. We'll explore how his legacy continues to shape the country's politics, culture, and interactions with the world. We'll also look at how Ivan's story can teach us about the importance of balance and responsibility in leadership. Imagine growing up in a palace filled with fear, betrayal, and violence. This was the childhood of Ivan the Terrible, the man who would one day become Russia's most feared ruler. Ivan was born on August 25, 1530, but his life was far from ordinary. As a young boy, Ivan was left all alone after his parents died. He was just a child, and he didn't have anyone to take care of him. The nobles who were supposed to protect him neglected him, and he was surrounded by violence. Can you imagine how scary it must have been for a young boy to live in a palace where people were fighting and hurting each other? Despite all the hardships, Ivan grew up to be a strong and clever boy. He learned how to speak multiple languages and became interested in politics and leadership. He even became friends with a group of men who would later become his closest advisors. But Ivan's life took a dark turn when he became the Tsar of Russia. He was only 16 years old at the time, and he had a lot of power in his hands. Unfortunately, Ivan's experiences in the palace as a child had a lasting impact on him. He became paranoid and suspicious, and he started to see threats everywhere. As Ivan's reign went on, he became more and more tyrannical. He started to kill anyone who disagreed with him, and he even ordered the murder of his own son. His people lived in fear of him, and his name became synonymous with cruelty and fear. But here's the thing, Ivan was not born terrible. His childhood shaped him into the man he became, and his experiences had a lasting impact on his behavior. His story teaches us that even the most famous and feared people in history had a human side. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore the legacy of Ivan the Terrible and how it still affects Russia today. We'll talk to historians and experts who will share their insights on why Ivan's story is so important. His story is a powerful reminder that even the most complex and difficult people can have a profound impact on the world. Ivan's story is a reminder that we should always try to understand the people around us, even if they seem scary or intimidating. We should try to see the human side of them, just like we're doing with Ivan's story. And that's the key to breaking the cycle of fear and violence that has haunted Russia for centuries.